There's a part of love that we don't like to talk about, the part that isn't soft or healing or calm, the part that leaves you packing your room at 2 a.m., reading the same message again, wondering how something that felt so real could also feel so wrong. We don't start by knowing what's toxic. We start by calling it love because, at first, it looks like love. It sounds like attention, affection, intensity. It feels like someone finally seeing you until they don't. And that's where toxic dynamics begins. If healthy dynamics was about peace, this is about the storm before it, the confusion that teaches you what calm even means, the ache that pushes you toward clarity. This series isn't about blame. It's about awareness. It's about the quiet realization that not everything that feels like love is safe, and that sometimes the lessons that hurt the most are the ones that set you free, because before you can recognize healthy love, you have to understand why you were drawn to its opposite. Toxic dynamics don't start loud. They start soft. They sound like you're different, like I've never felt this before. They sound like forever and look like connection, but underneath they move fast, too fast to see clearly. It's the kind of love that rushes in and swallows you whole, and for a while it feels intoxicating until you realize you've stopped breathing. You start to notice the patterns, the way you question yourself more than you question them, the way you apologize for emotions they caused, the way you start shrinking just to stay close. And somewhere deep down, you know this is what love is supposed to feel like. But by then, your heart is already entangled in the chaos. That's what makes toxic love so difficult. It doesn't always feel wrong. It feels familiar. In toxic dynamics, we'll explore that familiarity, the quiet pull toward what once felt like safety, even when it is. We'll talk about the ways love turns into control, how comfort becomes confusion, and how manipulation can sound like care when you're starving for affection. We'll look at why you stay, not because you're weak, but because your heart still remembers what it felt like at the beginning and keeps trying to get back there. But love that hurts you isn't love that heals you. And part of healing is learning to stop romanticizing the pain. That dizzying beginning that feels like a dream until it turns into exhaustion. The overattention, the promises, the fast connection that fills every quiet space. We'll talk about why it feels so good, why it's so addictive, and how to tell when love is moving too fast to be real. Because not every spark means safety. Sometimes it's the start of a fire that burns you down. The subtle art of confusion. When words are twisted, memories are rewritten, and you start to question your own reality. We'll talk about the slow erosion of self-trust and how to rebuild it once someone has taught you to doubt your own truth, because reclaiming your voice after silence is one of the bravest things you'll ever do. always obvious, rarely loud. It hides behind kindness, behind guilt, behind "I'm just worried about you." It makes you feel responsible for someone else's emotions until you forget you have your own. But when you start to see it clearly, you stop mistaking control for care. The performance of love without the presence of empathy, the cycle of idealization and devaluation, the charm that feels magnetic, and the withdrawal that feels personal. We'll talk about why empathetic people often attract those patterns, and how to break the need to fix what was never yours to heal. How control can disguise itself as protection, how dependency can be mistaken for devotion, and how love can become an exchange instead of a connection, because healthy power feels shared. Toxic power demands. The modern form of disappearance, where closure is replaced with silence. We'll talk about what happens when connection ends without explanation, and how to stop blaming yourself for someone else's lack of courage. Sometimes silence isn't rejection, it's redirection. The almost loves, the maybes, the half relationships that leave you half healed. We'll explore why you settle for almost, why you keep waiting for clarity that never comes, and how to leave when confusion becomes the pattern, because half love teaches you what whole love should feel like. Not as warnings to fear, but as invitations to pause, to notice when someone's inconsistency is draining your peace, when intensity is being mistaken for intimacy, and when effort only exists in words, because every red flag is just a reminder of what you now refuse to ignore. The parts of us that chase chaos and call it chemistry, that confuse attention with safety and silence with rejection, will slow down and learn to recognize when love starts to feel like withdrawal, when waiting for a message becomes an ache instead of excitement, when overthinking becomes the only form of communication left, because awareness, not avoidance, is what ends the cycle. Toxic dynamics isn't a series about anger or blame. It's a mirror, a place to understand yourself gently, to see the patterns that shaped you, and to finally stop mistaking emotional survival for love. Each episode is a small unraveling, a slow undoing of confusion, a quiet return to clarity. Because when you start to see the toxic, you start to understand the healthy. And that's how you heal, not by running from the dark, but by learning to walk through it softly